Welcome to Ontario East Matters. We're here with another episode, and thanks for joining us. I'm here today with the president of the Ontario East Economic Development Commission, TJ Flynn. He also works for Northumberland County in charge of investment attraction. Welcome to the studio.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jay. Appreciate it.
TJ, Northumberland County, tell us a bit about Northumberland County. It's along the shores of Lake Ontario, just south of Peterborough. Give us some details.
It's a big community. It goes from the west end is Port Hope all the way over to Brighton. The southern boundary, of course, is Lake Ontario, right up to Rice Lake. It's about 1,900 square kilometers and about 85,000 to 90,000 people. Big community.
And TJ, we always like to talk a bit about our members and how they got into economic development. Are you from that area, or how did you come to Eastern Ontario?
But by no means am I from that area. I spent my career in private sector with a big publicly traded company. I was a senior VP on the management team and the acquisition team, and I retired back in 2009. I moved to Cobourg in 2011, started volunteering. I was writing business plans for the local economic development office, and I was there about 25 hours, and they created a job and said, why don't you apply for this? You're here all the time. So in 2018, I started working officially in economic development. So that's 8 years.
Well, you know, it's always good to talk about the background. People have such diverse backgrounds, but you actually have another connection to Eastern Ontario. Tell us about that one.
Well, I mean, I have a family connection. We've got cottages up north of Kingston. We've been doing it, going up there since 1963. So, yeah, Eastern Ontario is very close to my heart personally.
Yeah, and that'd be Lennox and Addington County,
yep.
right in the heart of Eastern Ontario.
Yeah, North Frontenac, actually.
North Frontenac, very good. So tell Cobourg, Port Hope, Trent Hills, Campbellford, you mentioned Brighton. You've got a lot of smaller communities, but a lot of strength in the manufacturing sector. Tell us about some of the background and history of that.
Yeah, we're pretty strong in the plastics industry. You've got SABIC and SABIC is in Cobourg, Hamilton Township, CCC in Colborne. Another big sector that we are very interested in is the food sector. You got Bloomers up in Trent Hills.
The chocolate company.
Yeah, the chocolate company. You've got Baxter's Bakery. Weston's left the community, Cobourg, and Baxter's Bakery stepped in within 6 months to take over that plant, which is fantastic. We have Canada Candy in Cobourg as well. That's John Vince Foods actually owns that. Yeah. And they also, by the way, a lot of people don't realize, they own the Big Apple.
Right.
Which is everyone driving along 401 east of Toronto recognizes the Big Apple. So, but probably the most important thing that shows our commitment to the food sector is the Northumberland-owned Ontario Agri-Food Venture Centre. It's in Colborne. It's a mini factory with 15,000 square feet. We've dealt with, probably in the last 3 years, 370 small businesses, people trying to launch food products in Canada. Probably about 190 products have been launched, and of those 190 products, the Venture Center actually is involved with the distribution of 100 of them. So these products are in Metro, Foodland, Sobeys, all across Ontario, and now moving out throughout Canada as well.
So all the major supermarkets and
they're
department
buying
stores.
it, yeah.
And having I guess it's a bit of an incubator, startups, is that open to a company that might want to come into the region?
Yeah, in fact, the customers of the Venture Center, about 35% are from Northumberland, but the rest are from outside of Northumberland. So we've got people from far away as Windsor come to the Venture Center. A lot come from Eastern Ontario, Kingston, Ottawa, that sort of thing, and a lot from the GTA as well.
So having a support system like that, raising awareness of it, is that a free service or?
No, it's a pay to play service. So we have a staff there. They're all trained, and you would come into the facility. You pay for the staff hourly, and you also pay for expertise in terms of chemicals, chemistry, and your recipes and that sort of thing.
And you've got to think, for a startup company or someone trying a new product, that is an economical way to do it.
Yeah, it is. In fact, you can't really do it otherwise. I mean, it is subsidized, and it's fairly inexpensive for these people. And without it, I don't think they'd survive. And it is the only facility like it in the province.
Well, you know, it's great to have that asset
Yeah.
right here in Eastern Ontario. And you mentioned the Big Apple, and
Yeah.
401 is the busiest highway in North America
Yeah.
and the most traveled. And this facility is right beside that. So if anybody wanted to see it, they could
Yeah.
pop in, I
Yeah,
suppose.
you can pop in. It's literally 2 minutes off the highway.
You know, an industry that we haven't talked about, we probably should have right off the top, has to do with a long history going back 80 years. It's been an ongoing industry, the energy industry. There's some new things happening, but Port Hope community was one of the first involved in developing nuclear energy production of electricity. So tell us a bit about that history and what's happening.
Well, I'll tell you, you stole my thunder there. But I was going to talk to you about nuclear next. I mean, honestly, the announcement of OPG building a nuclear plant at Wesleyville, which is part of Port Hope, is a game changer for the whole community. They haven't announced exactly the technology, but they're looking at building a major, double the size of Darlington nuclear plant. It changes the whole approach to economic development, frankly. You know, traditionally you go out and you're looking for manufacturers to come to your community. You're building relationships. In this case, we now have to start to take on the role of be in readiness, because when OPG builds a plant like that, their supply chain is expected to be in the community. So we're now in a position where all these suppliers are going to be coming to us and say, we want to set up shop. So what we have to do over the next 10 years, 5-10 years, is make sure we have enough service land, make sure it's in the area that OPG feels it would work for them as far as them being serviced, and then make sure that we can accommodate the people who are working there, i.e. housing. And so it becomes more a planning process than it does an actual going out and seeking partners and new business.
You know, and it's long-term planning, and you mentioned Darlington. I think there's 4 reactors there, 1,000 megawatts. They're looking at up to 8,000 megawatts. Electricity is it's the energy source of the future with data centers, demand, fossil fuels being diminished. What do you do as an economic development office to help the Ontario Power Generation, or OPG, with that supply chain? Is that something you have to target, or did you work with that organization?
Honestly, we'll work with OPG to do that, and we've started already. We've had 2 or 3 meetings already with OPG to sort of suss out what exactly do you need, where do you want it to be located, how much land is required. So we'll work very, very closely with them. It won't be a case, as I stated earlier, it's not going to be a case of us going out and seeking the supply chain people. They'll be coming to us and saying, hey, we got to be in your community. How can you accommodate us? That's really what we're doing with OPG.
And your community, I know south of the 401, you've got most of the towns. North, you've got open lands, agricultural lands, good access by rail and road, and even you're connected to the Atlantic Ocean through Lake Ontario.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you know, we're not that far from, there's a big port in Oshawa, and we're 40 minutes, half hour to 40 minutes from that port.
You know, one of the things about Eastern Ontario, we're very fortunate. We have strong employment in manufacturing and science. We've got great educational facilities, great recreational facilities, and Cobourg. And you mentioned earlier in this conversation, you moved there to retire. It's a big retirement community, but lots of young families as well. But what that makes you wonder about is the workforce that's going to be needed for nuclear and for the ongoing food production. What is the workforce like in Northumberland County?
Well, you know, given our population, it's not a massive workforce, but really, Jay, what we depend upon is half an hour away is 800,000 people in Durham. And in fact, historically, we've actually put together social media programs trying to attract workers from Durham to come out our way. I mean, it's an easy sell. You know, you get a shot of the 401 in the morning going west to Toronto or going east to Northumberland, And most people say, yeah, I'd rather commute to Northumberland than into Toronto. All you need is a good pair of sunglasses.
Right, against the traffic. That's right, and coming against the traffic.
East in
yes.
the morning, west in the afternoon.
Yeah. No, and the thing we always promote about Eastern Ontario, affordability compared to larger urban centers or centers closer to the Greater Toronto area, or on the other end, closer to Montreal. We still have affordable houses and properties.
We do, but I'd like to see them a little less expensive, but they certainly are less expensive than other GTA areas. I can say that affordable housing is an issue that we're concerned with. Northumberland County has created the Northumberland Workforce Housing Corporation specifically to build and provide homes for those people working in factories, possibly PSAs or nurses, addressing the workforce. So trying to deliver below market value housing within the community.
And with that, you've got post-secondary institutions with interest. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a little different than other communities. We actually don't have a post-secondary institution in the community, but we're serviced by a number just outside the community. In Peterborough, you have Trent and Fleming. In Durham, you have Ontario Tech and Durham College. And in Belleville, you have Loyalists. So all of these post-secondary institutions do actually work with us.
And they're very commutable, and they have had satellites, and we might see some reestablishment of that, I think.
Fleming actually has a satellite in Cobourg, and Loyalist has worked with us at the Venture Center in the past. Durham has worked with us in the past on individual programs. So yeah, we do a fair bit of stuff, and I expect with the nuclear power plant that's to be built, both McMaster and Queens have an interest in the they in fact have nuclear generators on their campuses.
That's right. Yes.
So I think we're working on approaching them to see what they think about coming to our community.
In Eastern Ontario, being where we're located, long, strong history. We've run all the way up to Deep River, which is the opposite end of Eastern Ontario.
Yeah.
We'll have members from Renfrew area talking about that. But I think with the resurgence of energy, we're going to see a lot happening when it comes to Port Hope, Northumberland County, and the entire region. And we do have some manufacturers that supply there already, and well-established schools. You mentioned several.
Yeah,
that,
well, and
are involved.
like Loyalist is actually, they have a campus in Port Hope, and it primarily had served the international students. So there's a little bit of a gap there, as we all know. We're hoping that with the new nuclear plant coming in, some programming will be established at that campus, and it's an opportunity for Loyalists to keep that campus running.
Right, and TJ, as the county, you also work with economic development offices at, as we call it, the lower tier.
Yep.
How does that work when it comes to investment attraction? Do you work hand in hand with those folks?
Yeah, sure I do. I mean, basically, the way it has worked out historically is I have pretty good relationships at the provincial level with Invest Ontario and the Ministry of Economic Development. They'll contact me with opportunities, or site selectors, because I also go to the Site Selector Guild events. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to those lower tiers and say, here's an opportunity, let's work on it together. And that's usually what happens.
And TJ, at the start of the show, I introduced you as the president of the Ontario East Economic Development Commission. It's a position you're elected to. You've got another year of service. What value do you get from being a member of this organization?
Well, I mean, the first and most obvious one is you get access to tools that you couldn't possibly afford, whether it be the Zoom Prospector tool, which is a real estate listing hyped up with all sorts of community information and data that site selectors can use. Also the lead generation from foreign direct investment lead generations that we get. Again, we could not afford that, and none of the other members could afford that on their own. But probably the most important thing, I think, is it gives us a presence as a region. When you're out there in the big bad world and around the world, no one knows Northumberland. They know Canada, and they know Ontario. Mm-hmm. So Ontario East gives us a voice at the Ontario table with the provincial Invest Ontario and the Ministry of Economic Development. So when Minister Fideli's out there and has an opportunity, he goes back to his staff can think, oh, there's that Ontario East group. We can go to them. They'll provide us somewhere in Ontario, in the eastern part of Ontario, to go to. So to me, that's probably one of the more important things, establishing ourselves within Ontario and allowing ourselves a voice through them out to the rest of the world.
Well, TJ, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. And you didn't have a script, but you couldn't have said it better if we gave you one. Promoting Ontario East, I want to thank you for taking some time to share your thoughts on Northumberland County and being an important part of the Ontario East Economic Development Commission.
Thank you very much for having me, Jay. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you next time on Ontario East Matters. Thanks for joining us.